Kia ora, g'day, welcome back once again here with, I'm actually early to the party for once instead of being late, or actually, I don't even think you can call my reactions late to the party. I've missed them completely. I'm usually years behind, but this is something that's fairly recent, at least in media here in Aotearoa, New Zealand anyway, which is really disappointing, disgusting, disgraceful to be fair. But I feel like doing a reaction to this. I've actually had a couple of comments come through, but I already had this earmarked to do a bit of a reaction on this one and then post this up today. So this is one that's popped up in and around the massive failure of leadership. The government acts after scathing review of police over, this is the McScumbag guy, who was the Deputy Police Commissioner, I think. But anyway, if you're here for this, let's jump into it.
Good evening, everybody. The Independent Police Conduct Authority has conducted a wide-ranging and comprehensive review into how complaints against former Deputy Police Commissioner McScumbag were handled. Its findings are deeply troubling, revealing serious failings in the former police executive and raising real questions about oversight, judgment and accountability of the former leaders. It's very clear that the woman at the centre of this was failed by former senior police and by the system. What is also clear is that this cannot continue to happen. That is why the government is acting decisively to install the strongest statutory oversight mechanism available to it, an Inspector General of Police. An Inspector General of Police would bolster the IPCA, which would transition into the new oversight body, but with additional powers and functions. Details are still being worked on, but the end result will be to restore public confidence in police. New Zealanders will rightly ask how someone facing such serious allegations as McScumbag was appointed to one of the most senior roles in police and later considered for an even higher one. The government shares this concern, and we're taking action. The IPCA report also raises questions about the recruitment process for McScumbag to become Deputy Police Commissioner. The Public Service Commission, or PSC, has taken this seriously and proactively commissioned an independent review of its appointment process, led by Miriam Dean KC. That review found the process was generally sound, but it also found areas where the PSC could have gone further. Those recommendations have now been implemented, and the PSC has strengthened its integrity checks, improved documentation and added new steps to make sure candidates and referees are upfront and honest. But even the best processes rely on full and honest disclosure, and in this case that did not happen.
I was going to say it all well and good, but you still haven't answered the question. And I don't even think that part still answers the question, that there hasn't been full and honest disclosure. So who's made the decisions to allow McScumbag to get through the selection process, for want of a better term, to be potentially could have been the chief of the New Zealand Police? It's something's off.
Let's be clear, this could have been avoided if senior police at the time had acted with integrity, called out bad behaviour when they saw it, and properly investigated allegations when they were made. The public has to be able to trust the police and have trust in our leaders and our public sector, and they have a right to expect that when things go wrong, people are held to account, and that is what we are doing. I'll now hand over to my colleague, Police Minister Mark Mitchell.
Well, hopefully we're holding to account the previous commissioner then, if it was on his watch, and that dirtbag has gone and allowed this to happen and has looked to sweep things under the carpet or whatever. Hopefully they follow through with the supposed accountability for those responsible.
Attorney General. Good evening. I want to acknowledge the Independent Police Conduct Authority for their comprehensive work on the report. The findings reveal significant flaws in decision making, judgment and actions, raising serious concerns regarding the integrity and conduct of a group of individuals, primarily at the very top of the previous police executive. In saying this, I acknowledge those staff highlighted in the review as having showed exceptional moral courage. They have done themselves, their colleagues and their organisation proud. At the centre of the investigation is a woman who has been let down by the previous police executive and the system. I cannot express how frustrated and disappointed I've been since becoming aware of the situation.
Well, hopefully, for one, she stops getting harassed with whatever prosecutions are still going at the moment. I think I've seen that on a short little clip. I forget the name of the guy that hosts the online stuff, or Herald media show, for want of a better term. There's a good place to start, and I'm guessing some sort of compensation, maybe, probably going to go to for, the hardships that have been caused by this. Who knows what it's meant? Loss of income, reputational loss and damage. I don't know, but surely there must be something other than this. But at least here's some people that are at least willing to acknowledge, and I don't know if he's apologised yet. Maybe he's getting into it. Maybe he did, and I've just bloody rambled on that long that I can't remember.
I can assure her and all New Zealanders that the government is taking these findings extremely seriously. On becoming Police Minister, I've been unequivocal in my expectations of police that conduct and integrity must be held at the highest standard across the police service. I've acted decisively at every juncture in standing down and then recommending the removal of the former Deputy Police Commissioner. As a government, we will continue to do what is needed to ensure this does not happen again. Police have also accepted all the recommendations in the report. The Police Commissioner will speak to that in more detail shortly. The New Zealand Police enjoy strong public trust and confidence. It is imperative that this trust is maintained. That comes with strong action on the part of the government. Finally, I do want to stress that these adverse findings should not be seen as a reflection on our police service as a whole. There are 15,000 dedicated men and women in police who serve and protect our communities with distinction and bravery every day. I want to emphasise how proud I am of our outstanding frontline staff and restate that this government backs our police in the critical work they do. Like most Kiwis and our police officers, I'm extremely disappointed in what has been revealed by this report. I want the public to be reassured that this government takes this seriously and is working to do everything we need to do to prevent this happening again. I'll now ask the Commissioner to make some comments.
I like that he's acknowledged the 15,000 odd police. I didn't know that was the number. Men and women out there, serving the communities, doing it's a hard job, man. Like, I've never served as a police officer. I know some people that have and that do, and yeah, it's hard work. It's work that not a lot of people not only are not qualified or have the aptitude to be able to do, but are unwilling to do. And so, yeah, again, I have a massive amount of respect for the police, but like I've said, there's bad apples in every bunch, and the police, unfortunately, is not immune to it. Neither is our government, neither are other organisations out there in the place, whether they're large, medium or small.
Thank you, Minister and Attorney General. The events and findings set out in the IPCA report made for appalling reading and showed a total lack of leadership and integrity at the highest level. The report is thorough and convincing, and I accept the recommendations and the intent of them. The report has set out troubling departures by former senior leaders of police from the usual processes for dealing both with sexual assault complaints and with investigations into police officers. It was not until late 2024 that an investigation was set up to properly investigate those claims. That should have happened from the start. Prior to that, integrity checks and balances were bypassed. There was interference from the highest levels, and the interests and ambitions of a senior police officer were put above the interests of a vulnerable woman. I want to apologise to the woman at the centre of this for the repeated early failures in following the proper processes investigating this matter by those at such a senior level of police.
It's nice to hear this police commissioner, he's the current police commissioner, sorry I don't know his name, apologise to the woman, whoever she is. That's still likely not going to be good enough. I think that's probably just one thing. Would have been nice to hear those other two off to his left, my right, as I'm looking at the screen, apologise as well, but I don't know, maybe it needs to just come from the commissioner.
You had asked for help. You were badly let down. That was unacceptable. I acknowledge those police staff who did stand up and challenge what was happening here. I thank them for their courage, for their leadership, and the integrity they showed in doing so. What has happened here has angered me. It was a kick in the guts for the 15,000 women and men of New Zealand Police who turn up to work every day and night to serve New Zealanders and keep them safe. It was not those staff who were found wanting here. It was a failing of leadership. The actions and attitudes set out in the report are inexcusable and show disrespect and disregard for what New Zealand Police stands for. My new leadership team will take ownership of the response to this and implement recommendations swiftly. Some steps have already been taken. I have appointed an independent King's Counsel to conduct employment investigations where required. I am currently undertaking an extensive refresh of the police executive and wider leadership, including the appointment of 2 statutory deputy commissioners. The IPCA recommendations to strengthen the role of the Integrity and Conduct Unit will form part of that refresh. I look forward to getting the new executive in place to help me steer New Zealand Police. The report's recommendations are relevant to other work I already have underway to strengthen integrity. A revision of the Police Code of Conduct is underway aimed at strengthening accountability. I recently ordered an immediate uplift of the Police National Integrity Unit with an additional 6 investigators. That unit handles investigations into police staff. The processes for investigating senior leaders were too easily ignored and bypassed here, despite objections by some. That is a concern, and I agree extra safeguards are needed. I welcome the IPCA's recommendations and the government's decisions in terms of achieving that. Earlier this year, I also invited the Public Service Commission to conduct a performance improvement review into police with a particular focus on integrity and culture. That is now happening. I expect my new leadership team to show integrity and competence, to be in touch with the front line and with the expectations of the public. Leading New Zealand Police is a privilege and rightly carries responsibilities and expectations. From day one, leadership and accountability have been priorities for me. Integrity is a core value of the New Zealand Police, and I have emphasised standards and expectations many times. I also want to speak to the victims of sexual violence. This woman was let down through the initial failings of police to hear and act on her complaint. But what happened here will dismay and anger the dedicated specialist investigators around the country who put everything into their work, trying to hold the perpetrators of sexual violence to account and to keep people safe. The absolute worst outcome of this would be if anyone did not feel safe in reporting sexual assault to police, or did not think police would listen and investigate thoroughly. I want to assure you that is not the case. The attitudes on display here are not attitudes I have experienced among specialist investigation team staff or when working in this field myself, nor are they attitudes acceptable to me. I know some people will question whether police have learned the lessons of the past after reading this report. Our specialist sexual assault teams are highly trained and dedicated. Over many years, police has put a lot of resource and effort into developing and implementing very robust processes for dealing with sexual violence complaints. One of the most disappointing things about this report was that a small group of senior leaders at the time elected to depart from those processes. It was not the processes that were at fault here. It was people at a very senior level deciding to ignore and put aside those processes out of self-interest.
Wow. So who are those people? Like, we've already named bloody, what's his name, McScumbag on here. Who are the other people at the highest level? Is it that Costa Blinken knob jockey? And who are the other people? Or is it just those two? Surely there must be other people involved. The way that he's describing it, it sounds like there's more than just two people involved that have covered this up or put this young woman through the pain and suffering that she's been going through, in addition to whatever sexual assault may have happened to her.
I will do my utmost to ensure that cannot ever happen again. Thank you.
As you've just referenced, there were processes in place at the time. Those failed, according to...
Oh, cool. Looks like we're going to get to hear some of the questions. So this might be a bit weird. I'm not sure if the questions will come through. Hopefully I can hear them well enough. And hopefully we get some good ones. Hopefully people ask, can you name the other people at the highest level that have been involved in this, what sounds like a cover-up and poor leadership?
This report due to human failure. Why should New Zealanders now trust that the same thing isn't just going to happen again in the future?
Yes, look, as I have said, I know how much progress New Zealand Police has made over the years.
My take, that's a dumb question. How is he supposed to be able to answer that? He doesn't know how he doesn't have the magic words to convince all New Zealanders that they can trust the police again. That's going to be a personal decision that everybody's going to make. That's my take anyway. I think I want to know who the bloody culprits are and what's going to happen. What's the intent in terms of the investigation, and what are the potential consequences for those that are, by the sounds of things, and or that will likely be found guilty for their actions or the part that they've played in this cover-up.
We are a lot better. The processes are there. Under my leadership, this will never happen again, but this must never happen again for New Zealand Police. We have good processes in place for a reason. That is to protect the integrity of investigations. What happened here was those were departed from.
Can
I just also add to this, before we go to other questions? It is one of the reasons that we are moving towards the Inspector General of Police model, which is a significantly more invasive process than the IPCA has. So, for instance, the Inspector General of the Intelligence Services can basically go into any file, any place, any time, anywhere. Same with this. It's going to be significantly more invasive. But as the Commissioner said, it's not the processes that failed, it was the people who failed. But anyway, that's the other response for that.
Can I just ask, can we rewind a little bit? Which former senior leaders are you talking about? Can you name them for us?
Yes.
Well, I mean, the report speaks for itself. You will know who they are.
But can you just name them now?
Yes, just name them. If we already know, I haven't seen the report. If the report's already out and you're saying we already know, just name and shame them, bro.
Well, it references the former Commissioner of Police. It references the former Deputy Commissioners of Police. It references Assistant Commissioner level. So,
and the names? The names, not the titles. He didn't ask. He's asked for the names, not what are the positions of the people. That's a bit disappointing. Come on, bro. You're the new commissioner. Bloody name them. Not on your watch, you reckon? Name these clowns. It's not you. Name these bloody dirtbags.
Very senior, the most senior level.
Based on these findings, would you have any trust in
That was a stink answer that he gave. Disappointing answer. Anyway.
Andrew Costa to run any agency that's related to public service?
Well, I know that, as you know, I'm the Minister for the Public Service. The Commissioner for the Public Service has agreed with Mr Costa that he will now be on leave while the Commissioner of the Public Service undertakes his investigation. And obviously, as you would imagine, this is an employment matter, and I must be very careful what I say, but I think you can read the report. It's pretty obvious, a massive failure of leadership.
And so you're putting him on leave. Is that paid leave? Sounds like he's been shifted from the police commissioner, if it's the guy they're talking about, that Costa clown, a bit of a golden handshake into another position under the Attorney General. And now he's going to be put on leave. Like, what does that mean? That's, that's pretty poor at the moment.
Considering that report, why does there need to be a separate investigation by the Public Service Commission?
Because there's an employment contract between the Public Service Commission and Mr Costa.
As a political leader and as a senior...
Mr Costa to stand down?
Well, he's already now on leave. I understand as at tomorrow or today.
As a political leader and someone who talks about standards...
Still sounds like she's mincing around the blink and the elephant in the room with regards to what's happening with that clown Costa.
Do you think it is acceptable to have a CE in the public service having had the findings found against them that have been found in this report?
If this was me being named in this report, I would be ashamed of myself. And I think that's what I can say. I would be deeply ashamed. And so I think that anybody who has read this report and read the findings should be reflecting on what they can possibly add to the roles that they have.
That's probably the first decent answer I've heard her say. A subtle comment towards that clown, the other clown, to, so we should be. It's just ridiculous. So there's probably the first answer, I suppose, of that's, I don't know if it's made any sense, but that I've liked anyway, because it sort of, that's directed towards that twat.
Deputy Commissioner Tanya Kurta resigned earlier this year. Some failures have been identified in this report regarding her conduct. If she was still in her position today, would have you sacked her?
That's not a matter for me as a warranted Deputy Commissioner. That would be a matter for
Minister to Mark Mitchell that you wouldn't be happy with her in your executive?
I would have provided advice to the Minister of Police. To the Public Service Commissioner, who would have provided that to the Minister of Police, yes.
And that advice, can you just spell out what that would have been?
Well, I think the report speaks for itself.
Bloody hell, if you're going to stand up there, do this press conference and then just keep referring to the report speaks for itself, like we, the reporters, this is a good question. That reporter, we want to hear what would you, spell out what you would do. We want to know. If you want to talk about transparency and integrity and values and all this sort of stuff and doing the right thing, accountability, then, give us a bit of an insight and a taste. Don't keep deferring me or us to the report. Grow up here and tell the public what you would do. I don't see what's so wrong with that, unless you're worried about you might be called out down the track, But look at me sitting on the sidelines in my armchair, trying to talk about what he should be spelling out. But I am interested. I would love to know and hear. He said he was angry, made him angry. you can still be in control, I think, and articulate what you would do in response to this question and how you would have handled it if you had that power to be able to remove somebody and say, listen, I'm not working with this person because of X, Y, and Z, and this is what I would do.
Of course, at that time, I was not aware of the contents of this report, so I wasn't able to do that. But I had expressed already my disappointment and concern in relation to the former Deputy Commissioner when I became aware that she had visited Mr McScumbag when he was on serious charges. And I explained quite clearly that that fell well short of my expectations, was not good judgment and was very poor decision making.
Commissioner, can I just ask,
Again, it didn't answer the guy's question. But anyway.
For women who may be watching this press conference who will say that, this woman came forward multiple times to appeal and to make their case and she wasn't believed, how can they have any confidence that if they decide to come forward with an experience that they've had, that they will be believed?
Yes, look, as I have said...
Sorry, I've cut him off there. I know we want to hear his answer. My take on that's another... There'll be a point where if anyone, doesn't matter if it's a female or a male or a youth or an elderly person, like you're either going to go forward to the police and with a level of trust and hope probably and say, hey, listen, this bad thing has happened to me. I'm reporting it to you. This is the person who did it, if you know who's done it. And then hopefully due process will follow. Sounds like they've got the processes, but as the Attorney General said, it was the people at the highest levels in this particular case, based on the report, who failed. So it wasn't the processes, but it was the people. So unless you're a mind reader and you can see into the future and or tell what a person's going to be like, police or not, you got to pull the trigger and go and see the police if something's gone wrong. That's my take anyway. I think that's be difficult for any individual, police commissioner, member of parliament, government, or whatever, to answer that question with any level of authenticity. This is just my take, to guarantee that New Zealand can feel comfortable, women or male, can feel comfortable and trust the police. Like, you're just going to have to go into the police and see them if you've got something wrong.
New Zealand Police has done a lot of work over the years. We've put a lot of resource into ensuring that when we have allegations of sexual assault presented to us, that we provide the best possible service and decision making to those victims. The processes that New Zealand Police have in place are strong, they are fit for purpose, they are good. What happened here is not a failure of the processes, it's the failure of former senior leaders of New Zealand Police who took those processes out and made decisions based on certain individuals and their career aspirations.
It's a good try, but it still doesn't answer the guy's question. How can you assure and or ensure that women, if they are in a similar situation, can come to the police, that they can trust them, that their allegations or that their complaints will be investigated? Telling the public that our processes are strong and that our processes work and that it wasn't the processes that failed, that it was the people at the highest levels that failed, like, we already know that. We understand that. It hasn't answered the question, it's just gone around it. It's all that. I don't think he's trying to deflect it. I think he just honestly doesn't know how to answer it. And that's what I mentioned earlier when I cut him off at the start, saying I don't think anybody can answer that question. Like, for me now, if I was anti the police, but somebody robbed my house or hurt one of my family or whatever, and if I know who it is, I might do something else. But anyway, say I didn't know who it was and I still didn't trust the police, but something's gone and happened, I'm going to go and report it to the police. Like, what choice do I have if I don't know who the person is, But anyway.
What happens for this woman now, this woman that considered this? Is it simply an apology? Is there a conversation about any sort of compensation for the prosecution?
I have already reached out to her legal representative to express my apology, and at an appropriate time I'm sure there'll be further conversations. As the Commissioner of Police, I take this report and its findings very, very seriously. And she has been failed. There is no doubt about that, and that is why I've already reached out to express my huge disappointment and also support for her, and we'll win.
And he apologised already, and from what I heard in this little press conference, the Commissioner there did express his apology to the female. He didn't name her. I'm guessing that's for legal reasons, name suppression or whatever. But he seems like somebody that would gladly apologise to her face-to-face as well. He's made a public apology, and it's good to know that he's reached out, and so they'll work through, some compensation and stuff for her.
I think that more will have to be done by police to make this right.
Oh, look, we have a lot of work to do. I mean, she is going to want to be reassured that we put things in place to ensure this never happens again. And, within the report there are a lot of findings, and I accept all of those. My new leadership team and I will own that, and we will work swiftly to ensure that we put things in place. I've already started that, as I've said, a number of things that I have done already I know will strengthen our response to these situations to ensure this never happens again.
Now, how would you describe the culture and the behaviour within the previous executive?
Well, I was not in New Zealand for most.
Don't say it's in the report. Bloody hell, for goodness sake. Like, he's asking your opinion. Yep, say based on the report or what you know or whatever. Don't. Yeah, anyway.
Of 2024, I lived offshore. I got on with my job. What I will say here is that I had absolutely no idea about any of this going on, about the references of a relationship, conversations that may well have been occurring. I knew nothing.
Just blast it, man. Just call it how you like. How does it make you feel? Does it make you feel disgusted? Like, he's asking you a simple question. How would you describe the culture of the previous leadership? Like, your take, your opinion, my opinion, 2 cents, Lincoln, F all for want of a better term. Like, just how would you describe that culture? What does it look like? You can get a bit of an insight into what that culture looks like through the reports, apparently. I haven't read the report. But how does it make you feel? How would you describe that? It sounds pretty disgusting. It sounds disgraceful. Just be probably a little bit more human and less political in terms of the comments. I think that would probably, let people see a little bit more the human side. Don't need to try to be staunch all the time and give the right answers or work around stuff. Easy for me to say. I'm not the police commissioner. I never will be. But I think it would humanise him and this and help build a bit of trust if I could hear, for me anyway, if I could hear a police commissioner that was prepared to be within reason, a little less filtered, and just tell the truth around how it makes him feel. It turns my stomach, makes me feel embarrassed. It makes me feel like their culture was one of just looking out for themselves and not worrying about the community. Whatever it is, whatever it makes him feel. Those are some of the thoughts that come to mind for me with regards to whoever that previous leadership was. There's only 2 dirtbags that I know of, is the McScumbag and the Costa clown.
But frankly, I was too busy doing my job. I was focused on what I needed to do at that time as an assistant commissioner, providing support to the front line, delivering services for New Zealanders in terms of policing. I had absolutely no idea because, frankly, I just got on with my job.
The thing is, he didn't ask you what you were doing. He asked you your thoughts on the culture. Right, you should have just answered that, not, what were you doing during this time? Great, you were doing your job. Awesome. Much respect, full credit to you, Mr. Commissioner. But, what was your take on the culture of their leadership at that time?
Based on the report, though, how would you describe the behaviour and the apparent culture within those senior ranks?
Well, the IPCA investigation has been very, very thorough.
Bro, just bloody doing my head in with the IPCA. We've heard you talk about that report. Bloody give your take, man. That's what he's asking you. Again, the same question. He's just reworded it slightly.
It speaks for itself, frankly. Hugely disappointing. This hasn't just let down 15,000 men and women of New Zealand Police who do an incredible job. This has let down New Zealanders because they expect more of their police officers, but even more of their senior police leaders. This is an absolute disgrace.
Is this the only thing that senior leadership team that you named, is this the only thing that they knew about, or were there other?
Well, frankly, as I've said, I got on with my job. I didn't embroil myself in conversations that weren't focused on doing the right thing for New Zealand, along with my staff. So I did not participate in conversations. Frankly, I had no friendship with these people. I got on with my job as a policeman.
Getting at it, more to come out other than this relationship with this woman.
Oh, look, I mean, the report has been...
It sounds like there should be a heck of a lot more to come out. It's a good question. Again, the Commissioner, I'm sure he's a good man, but it just sounds like you're skirting around the questions and trying to bamboozle us with a whole bunch of other words about how good you were at your job and how focused you were on doing your job and delivering outcomes for the New Zealand people. Like, I'm not questioning that. He's asking you a specific question about these leaders, and in particular, can we expect more cover-ups to potentially be uncovered in the future? I think if they dig a little more into those same leaders of the previous, whatever they're bloody called, they'd probably find some other stuff that's been swept under the carpet and maybe some other people that have been, again, genuinely hard done by. Just answer that bloody question, man.
The report is very, very thorough. I welcome the recommendations. My job with a new leadership team is to move forward on this, these recommendations. Is there more to come? Look, I've got a job to do for the country, for my organisation.
We'll take questions. Sam's been waiting for a question.
Can you just tell us more about this Inspector General role? Will you need to pass legislation?
Yes, we probably will. So we've got the Ministry of...
Was Sam planted in amongst the journos to ask this specific question so that it could give them a chance to talk about this Inspector General role? Anyway, that's the thought that comes to mind.
Justice is working on this. You will appreciate the fact that we've had this press conference this hour of the evening because we've been waiting for the suppression orders to be significantly dropped so that we could actually talk about it. But I certainly saw the report in confidence as the Attorney General and Public Service Commissioner about maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago. And it was clear to me that we had to, it was in the end of what we've had, we needed to move to a much higher level, and the Inspector General of Police would be the highest level that we could bring in, and it would also involve us coming more into line with other jurisdictions. So the Ministry of Justice is the policy arm. They are undertaking that work and looking to see how that would work. So I briefed Cabinet on it yesterday on what I could say with the suppression orders in place, and I've also briefed the Leader of the Opposition today with, again, what I could say before the lifting of the suppression orders, and he has agreed that they would support us in principle with what we're doing. I think we've got to get legislation through, and we want, obviously, the support of the whole House.
When do you expect that first Inspector General will be in place then, and the intention is that this will be a permanent inspectorate, that's not a temporary...
No, this has to be permanent. This has to be the way of doing business from now on, which is a far higher level of supervision and far more power to the inspectors, basically. So, Inspector General, that is. So, it will take some months to go through that process, but it's not going to be a rush job. But we have, I'm told that there are other jurisdictions with very similar systems, so we will look to see what works best.
Commissioner, just on that, with respect, do you think people in your position and the Deputy Commissioner positions at the top of the police have too much unchecked power?
No, look, I welcome the announcement by the government to put an Inspector General in place. That is not uncommon in policing around the world. I welcome that. Anything that is going to ensure this never happens again, I welcome.
How do you, what do you say to people that look at this and go, the whole senior levels of police, we're just looking after their mates?
Oh, look, the report speaks for itself. It's appalling. Of course, I'm let down because this impacts on my organisation and all the good people who turn out to do an amazing job. It's let us all down, but as I've said, it's let more than just police people down. It's let New Zealanders down because this is disgraceful behaviour.
The report says that Commissioner Costa inappropriately tried to influence an investigation into the woman's complaint and to persuade the IPCA that the matter could be resolved quickly. How serious is that for a police commissioner to be getting involved in trying to inappropriately influence investigations?
It's very serious.
So let's put it this way, if a minister tried to do that, I'm sure that the Prime Minister would have them out the door that day.
So is that all? You just out the door? Do you go, is there any sort of legal proceeding? Is there any, are there other consequences? Like, do you go to jail? Or do you just get sacked and a slap on the wrist, a fine, and that's it? It seems, so far what I'm hearing, it seems pretty soft, pretty weak. And the response, it's serious, okay? So I look forward to seeing what a serious outcome and consequences looks like when the dust settles and all is said and done and the investigation or whatever disciplinary actions have been taken.
It says that they believe that there was no collusion here, but that sounds an awful lot like some kind of collusion.
Well, I didn't say collusion, but I think you'd have to say it's an extraordinary amount of people all agreeing with each other. Wrongly.
Is this corrupt?
Sounds crap. Just speak in plain language. It's corruption, and they colluded together. They worked together, collaborated together to bloody try to get their agendas through, their people through, the outcomes that they wanted.
Look, this report speaks for itself.
We should get $1 for every time he says the report speaks for itself.
I have no doubt that people will interpret the report in their own way.
Would you say it's corruption?
Well, I think if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's not looking good, is it?
Well,
no, I think it's really important. The IPCA did not say that it was corruption. It could, however, when you look at the facts, it's an extraordinary set of events and extraordinary facts, and it must never happen again.
Why would the Independent Police Conduct Authority not just call a duck or a spade, as the Attorney General was alluding to? If it looks like corruption, why do you not call it corruption? Why do they stop short of that? It's stupid.
And as the Commissioner said, this was all with some sort of groupthink going on, but there were thankfully at least 3 people, lower ranked people, who stood up for what they knew was the right thing, and one of them sent this matter to the IPCA as a complaint. And without her work and the work of the others, this might never have seen the light of day.
That is awesome. Much respect to whoever that female was, junior ranking, and sending this off to the IPCA. Holy heck, if it wasn't for her courage, I wouldn't be reacting to this now. We wouldn't be hearing about this, and old bloody dirtbag scumbag, McScumbag, would be probably, I don't know, still continuing his bestiality and other inappropriate videos on his work laptop. Bloody ball bag.
Could prosecution follow? Like, will you take any investigation that could lead to prosecution as a result of what's in this report?
Look, it's too early to make those sorts of decisions. If in fact a breach of the law is apparent to us, then of course we would do that, but it's too early for me to... the report is so thorough, it's convincing, and I welcome the recommendations. I welcome the government's support and recommendations as well. It's far too early to be talking about that.
Why is it far too early? What needs to happen in order to get it to a stage whereby you're talking about criminal investigation and prosecution into those that were having these non-colluded conversations and apparently coincidentally agreeing on the same things? Like, what does it take? What do you need to do? You've got a convincing report. You're saying it doesn't look good. What next needs to happen? That's what I'd love to know.
Were any government ministers...
A clarification as to when you all individually became first aware of the woman's claim?
Yes, certainly. Look, I started as the New Zealand Police Commissioner on the 25th of November last year. I was briefed on this matter a couple of days before that. Prior to that, I had absolutely no knowledge.
So I was briefed on the 6th of November by the outgoing Police Commissioner Andy Costa. And that is when I first became aware of the situation. There was an IPCA investigation underway in relation to it.
What did he say about it at that time?
What did he say? Oh, yeah, by the way, mate, as I give you a high five and go to my new position, I'm being investigated by the IPCA, but she'll be right. I'll just slot on over here to this role and do whatever it is I'm doing here. This is crap.
Well, I'm not going to go into the details other than to say that he obviously gave me a full outline and brief in terms of the circumstances surrounding the behaviour attributable to Deputy Commissioner Jim McScumbag.
Did he identify any of his own behaviour?
No.
Had you heard any whisperings?
Yeah, good question, but yeah, he'd be a real nutsack, that clown Costa, if he said, oh, and by the way, I was covering all of it up just as I move past you here and go to this office across from you, probably. That's probably where he is, eh? Or was.
Or talk or rumours?
No, that was that was the first time that I'd heard of it, when he brought it forward to me on the 6th of November. And of course, from that point on, I held massive... I'm a father with daughters. I'm an uncle. And so, of course, I had massive concerns.
Are you aware of any ministers in the previous government being made aware of the complaints under any no surprises?
No, I'm not. No.
They were never told by...
I don't know. I don't know. Well, I can't speak to the previous government. I can't speak to how much or how little engagement they had with their police executive. That is a question for them.
I spoke to the opposition leader today. He was pretty clear that it was news to him. So
did Andrew Costa's explanation of what...
I didn't hear the Attorney General answer when she was made aware of all of this stuff. Anyway.
What had occurred to you on that day, did it bear a resemblance to what the report has currently found out?
Yes, it did, but I didn't accept that account.
In that meeting, Minister, can you recall what your initial reaction was to hearing that news and what you said to the
I was very unhappy because I felt that that the approach that was taken was not the right one, and I was very concerned about the young lady involved.
And what did you do next after that?
Sorry?
What did you do next after that?
So the next day I met with I had a meeting with the Public Service Commission and the Solicitor General, and I brought my concerns forward.
Minister, can I ask you about the timeline of the Andrew Costa investigation by the Public Service Commissioner? When do you expect that to be completed?
I can't tell you what that is yet because the Public Service Commissioner has, like me, only seen the report basically a couple of weeks ago, and he is undergoing his own employment process, obviously, questions that need to be answered. So I really can't give you a time frame, but like you, I've read the report.
In terms of...
So is this report online? Is it? It must be online. I don't know how many pages it is. I don't know that I could be bothered reading it. Maybe I will read it. Who knows? But if you know where the report is, feel free to let me know. I probably could do a Google search, but I'll probably forget about doing that after this when I get into uploading, crossing stuff over and editing this, just for upload, or editing it, adding a beginning and an end and a few little pop-up subscriptions and stuff along the way.
What that could do, could that, hypothetically lead to any, if there were to be any findings, any disciplinary or...
I can't go into that. It's a matter between the Public Service Commissioner and Mr. Costa.
No, you referenced the KC investigation into employment issues. How many staff that are still with the police are potentially implicated?
Three.
What does that say?
Look at that. That was nice and simple, to the point. Answered the question. How many police officers that have been involved in this that are still with the police? And he said 3. It's like, why couldn't you answer those other questions in a similar fashion? How you feel about it? What was the culture like?
3 people within a fairly large organisation. Does that speak to why you don't want us to tarnish the whole reputation?
Yeah, well, it does. It does. I mean, I lead an organisation of 15,000 men and women who do an incredible job day and night across the country. I know how hard they work because I'm connected to the front line. This report, the findings, is a kick in the guts for them. They are no different to me. We take a huge amount of pride in the job that we do for our country. That won't change. What will change is we will make swift action of implementing this with my new leadership team, and we will do our absolute best to ensure this never happens again.
Are those 3 people on leave? Is there any investigation? What's happening with them?
As I've said, I've instructed an independent King's Counsel, and that those investigations are progressing well, and I would expect to provide receive some advice in due course. So they continue to.
That's not what he's asked. He's asked, are those 3 police officers, are they on leave, or what's the story? Not, where's the investigation at, or your bloody whoever it is that you've appointed.
Work for now.
Yeah, many of these themes, etc., that the IPCA mentioned in their report are similar to the Baisley report that was released in 2007. How can you say that police culture has changed, that it's improved, when effectively they're very, very similar?
Sure. Look, as I have said, history of New Zealand Police when it comes to matters involving sexual assault has meant that we have done a huge amount of work to improve the way that we investigate and respond to allegations. And as I've also said, that my specialist investigators across the country are very, very dedicated. They're very good at what they do. They have my full support. What happened here was not a departure from those processes and all the changes that we've made over.
Yes, we've heard about that. It's quite funny looking at this. I don't know, like just looking at the body language, the Attorney General looks really, I don't know, like grumpy, apprehensive, anxious, nervous, maybe. It's, yeah, they all look uncomfortable up on the stage with regards to the questions that are coming in, and they're very, well, they seem good at that. I suppose no surprise for an Attorney General at talking around things and making it appear that they need to be very careful and cautious with their words. Some stuff, probably the employment stuff, I get it, that makes sense. But when you're being asked about how it makes you feel or your take on the culture, when they ask nothing about what you were doing while this was happening, it's just there must be a I don't know what the word is, but there must be some sort of, I don't know, apprehension about the words that may come out of people's mouths, so they're needing to be what appears to be very cagey about stuff. That's what it seems like anyway. But oh well.
Over the years, what happened?
Easy for me to not be so cagey, when I'm bloody sitting in the peanut gallery on my computer at home, reacting and listening to this.
Happened here was what people were interfering and separating through own self-interest the investigations that were underway from those processes. It's the former executive New Zealand Police that made those decisions, not my specialist people across the country who do an incredible job.
When did you find out about the investigation into Costa? What was the date again? Minister of Police.
You mean into skimming or Costa?
When did Costa tell you about this investigation?
6th of November, he told me.
It's last year.
Last year, yeah. 6th of November last year.
What did you tell Nicola Willis as Social Investment Minister?
The advice for me is the right levers and the right actions to take as a minister was to meet with the Solicitor General and with PSC, and that's what I did.
Do you know, did Nicola Willis get told at all that she had just appointed this person to the head of the Social Investment Agency?
At that stage, the issue wasn't about Andrew Costa. The issue was about Jevon McScumbag and the young lady. That was what the issue was about, and that's the one that I was addressing. It was the issues around Andrew Costa. We all now clearly see in the report that yes, without a doubt, he was the leader of the executive. He should be held to account for that. Because of what we're dealing with. But at that time, when I was informed on the 6th of November, the issue wasn't with Andrew Costa, it was with Jevon McScumbag, and it was with my concern around the young woman.
Yeah, that makes sense. So he knew about Jevon McScumbag on the 6th of November, and I think he was told by that Costa clown about it. So there was no implication or anything, and it didn't sound like he was, needed to suspect anything about Costa before going into the role that he ended up going into.
In your view, how should he be held to account?
We need to.
Well, as the Attorney General said, we can't speak to that. That is a process.
Of course you can. My take, you should be able to speak to it because it's just asking for your opinion. Like the fact that the process, so you've got a process for the legalities that need to go around, how that will be dealt with, the investigation, whatever the findings are, and then the actions on after that. Cool, that's the process. But the reporter has just asked you for your opinion. And you could just say, are you asking me for my opinion? This is my opinion about it. Is that the process? Is that what will happen? It probably won't be because there's a process over here that needs to take care of this. But here's my opinion that I can give you. I think we should blast the guilty parties with everything we've got to push the limits of the legal system based on whatever it is they may be found guilty for. To try to, in some small way, after the fact, try to right the wrongs of that person or this group of individuals who were at the highest levels of the policing organisation.
Just now that is that PSC are handling. As the Attorney General said, he has been stood down and they're working through a process.
Can I just before you wrap up,
They didn't ask you what's happening with the man. They asked you, how do you think he should be dealt with? What do you think should happen? Bloody hell.
At the heart of this is a survivor, a victim of sexual assault. Minister Collins, how can you give assurance or any comfort to survivors that an Inspector General of Police will make any difference?
Well, the New Zealand Police have learnt a lot over the years. And if you think back to...
You can't. That's the answer. You can't give any guarantees. You can't give any assurances or insurances that people will be safer and that whoever this person is with the role that they have is going to enable that. You just can't. Time will tell, I think, is the other part of that answer. And them working tirelessly or working as hard as they can to try to make sure that they can rebuild trust or establish trust and maintain it with people going forward. No answer right now. People are going to believe what they want to believe.
To what happened, those terrible attacks and assaults on Louise Nicholas, for instance, and the Basie report that came out from it. I don't think the front line of police is the problem. The problem here was that, certainly from the report, is that there was a group of very senior police officers who essentially stopped or in some ways limited the investigation of the allegations of assault. So there's been no finding on those allegations of assault that have been through a court or any other process other than to consider whether or not they can be prosecuted. The issue is that the attempts by police officers to have this looked into, these allegations, were basically stopped or shoved aside, or even, in some cases, were not probably career enhancing for those officers who were doing the right thing. So I'd say to you this, is that the New Zealand Police are overall 15,000 people, both uniformed and civilian, incredibly good people who go out every day, put them lives and bodies on the line for us all, and they have been massively let down, as this woman who is referred to in the report as Ms. Z had been. And yes, massively let down by a leadership team that seemed more interested in protecting one of their own, a very senior police officer, instead of actually getting to the nub of the issue, dealing with it properly, and then seeing what came out of it. And the IPCA report is the first thing that we've had to give us a very good rendition of what actually occurred in a logical and very well researched manner.
So I can't answer your question and I can't give you any assurances and or ensure that this will never happen again, and or that the oversight from whoever the Inspector General is going to make any difference. She can't, but I can repeat about the failings that have happened. I can acknowledge, and I'm happy to acknowledge that too. It's not the police officers on the front line risking themselves, like she said. Did a great job of talking about a whole bunch of stuff which had nothing to do with being able to answer the question. Just, there's some questions we just don't have the answers to. And clearly the Attorney General doesn't have the answer. The Minister doesn't have the answer. The Police Commissioner doesn't have the answer for a number of things. And that's okay. From my side, as a citizen of Aotearoa here in New Zealand, I'm okay if you don't have all the answers. Just say, listen, I don't know. I don't think that there's anything that I can say that can give you any assurance that this will never happen again. But we will give our best efforts to try to ensure that this doesn't happen again. And with the Inspector General, with the more invasive procedure, we are hoping, and we will be monitoring closely, whatever, that it will have a positive impact and be a deterrent to any potential future blinking cover-ups or misdeeds or bloody, crap that's happening or that was happening in the background. That's my take anyway.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Oh.
Right.
Bloody hell. Thank you. I didn't even realise that it's finished. This has been over an hour. I have, I've been in my own little peanut gallery here today, listening to this and giving my blanking 2 cents for what little it's worth in regards to this press conference. Couple of things I'll say. Respect to these three for coming and fronting up to the media, giving this press conference, taking questions. My respect and appreciation to the police force that are out there doing a very, very difficult job, putting themselves at risk for the safety and well-being of others, to protect and serve the communities in which they work and operate in. And but the reality is that there are bad apples in every crop and every batch. And unfortunately, like I said at the start, I think police is not immune, military is not immune, government's not immune, businesses, small, medium, large, are not immune. So hopefully there's some learnings here that can be taken away and applied and implemented, and that are effective, and that hopefully build trust and confidence in the police force that we have, and the very challenging, complex, difficult and hard work that they do and that they perform for each of us. So anyway, that's my take. If you made it this far, thank you very much for your time and support as always. Those that have asked for my 2 cents or thoughts around this stuff here, what's been happening, and I think there's some other bits and pieces. That's my take, raw and unfiltered, listening to this and watching this for the first time. So take it with a pinch of salt, eh? My 2 cents, I may have misheard some of the questions. I may have been completely wrong with regards to my interpretation of those questions and how they were answered, or how I might have felt that they were being diverted, deflected, and or not answered. So yeah, pinch of salt in terms of what I say. But I do sincerely appreciate your time and support as always. That being said, message is always the same, regardless of those challenges, trials, difficulties that you may be going through. Got to keep turning up, keep staying in the fight, put one foot in front of the other, take one day at a time. Even if you're that ball bag, scumbag, bloody McScumbag, and this clown Costa, the dynamic duo, I'll call them, and whoever those other Muppets are that have been at the highest levels involved in this whole conspiracy and cover-up, man, you shouldn't have done it in the first place. But it seems like you're in for a rough ride right now, and so you should be too if that's the way that you've been behaving. But anybody else outside of these clowns, not these three on here, but the clowns that have been involved in that report from the IPCA, keep fighting whatever those challenges are. Keep staying in the fight, whether they're work related, whether they're relationship related, whether they're employment related, whatever. Keep fighting, keep moving forward, keep your head up. The sun will shine again. There are better days ahead. As always, go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins and who cares wins. And until the next video, there's a big mana wave coming from me to you, filled with my aroha, respect, appreciation and gratitude for you all.